CBS 17 Cares presents Veterans Voices, honoring those who serve. Sponsored by Capital Automotive Group.
Thank you for joining CBS 17 Cares Veterans Voices. I'm Bill Young. Over the next half hour, we'll share the stories of the men and women who not only fought for our country, but also supported those on the front line. We will also feature stories of soldiers I met during a recent Purple Heart dinner. We begin with the story of Ed Abbey, a man whose career spanned 2 decades, but it was 26 years, 11 months, and 23 days into his service when his life changed.
I got my purple at the age of 55 running gun trucks on the roads of Iraq.
Abbey took on a fatherly role, figuratively and literally, working alongside his son when he found himself under attack. He was also alongside an 18-year-old soldier at the time.
Dan just kind of drops his shoulders and looks up at me in the gun turret. And the kid says, "Well, wait, that means you're old enough to be my..." And I said, "Kid, stop unless you'd like to do push-ups for the rest of the year." Well, he was the same kid that, when I got hurt, was the one that got on the radio and told everybody else, "Hey, the boss is bleeding," and I didn't even know I was hurt.
Abbey looks at that young man and his own sons when talking about the men and women who served our country during both times of war and peace.
When they say the greatest generation, each generation in its own way is that greatest generation. And these young people serving today, they're all volunteers. They don't have to be here.
I want to make sure to let you know I didn't mean any disrespect by not identifying Ed Abbey by his rank. Instead, I asked, and he prefers to associate with what he does today, being a life member of the Association of the United States Army and Disabled American Veterans, and that's just to name a few. In particular, he is very proud of his work with fellow Purple Heart recipients as the adjunct for the Department for the Military of the Purple Heart. It's been nearly 80 years since Pearl Harbor. It's now the resting place of more than 1,100 American sailors and Marines killed during that surprise attack in December 1941. And every year, nearly 2 million people visit the USS Arizona Memorial to pay their respects and honor the lives lost. Christine Oeno takes a look at what it takes to maintain this landmark.
Every day, this memorial welcomes nearly 5,000 people, some waiting in long lines to get in.
I just lost my dad, who was a veteran, and I just want to come and pay some kind of respect in memory of my dad.
The 184-foot USS Arizona Memorial honors the memory of the crew, as well as other service members and civilians who died during the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. To ensure this landmark continues to be preserved, about 40 staff members and numerous volunteers work daily to care for this memorial.
When you talk about volunteers, what types of duties do they have?
We have volunteers who go out to Honolulu, and they make sure that the trails are clean so that people can, as we plan to open that facility soon, people can have the ability to go down and navigate those trails. We have volunteers who help with handing out tickets, and then some of them really love to be out on the USS Arizona Memorial itself to provide historical and information about the people who fought and died on the Arizona on December 7th.
Recently, several large groups of volunteers, including Navy personnel and their families, helped scrub the decks, repaint, and reopen the memorial and dock. It was closed for more than a year due to damage caused by king tides.
And together, those 130 or so individuals contribute about $20,000 in labor to the rebeautification effort out at the USS Arizona Memorial. That included painting the entire interior of the memorial and parts of the exterior, removing rust, polishing the stainless steel rub rails and handles out on the memorial.
But it's not just large groups helping to maintain the memorial. There are also individuals like Mac Humphrey,
you have a reservation?
who has been volunteering here for 7 years.
You were offered a paid position, but you declined it, and you said you'd rather volunteer instead. Why?
Because I make enough money as it is to live and enjoy life. Why should I make more? I mean, I feel better volunteering. When they have a good time, I have a good time. When I can help people, I help people. I want to have a good time here as well as wanting them to have a good time.
Manning the memorial doesn't just mean everyday care, but also long-term maintenance.
One of the projects on the horizon, a new $4 million dock here at the Visitor Center.
Which is really important because, as well known, the dock at the USS Arizona Memorial, the anchoring system for that was recently replaced. So once we're able to replace that shoreside dock, which is part of the cyclical replacement of that structure, we'll be having 2 brand new docks.
Projects like that and staff and volunteers are what's necessary to maintain the memorial, so this landmark and the lives lost are always remembered. For Veterans Voices, I'm Christine Ueno.
And it isn't just those serving in the military who feel the effects of the service. Their loved ones do as well. Coming up, we'll introduce you to the Blue Star Moms, who are always ready to support and give back. The role they play is next on CBS 17's Veterans Voices. Sergeant Matthew Drawn did 3 deployments, 2 to Iraq and 1 to Afghanistan. It was during his last deployment when he earned his Purple Heart. Just listen as he shares what happened to him.
We were doing a resupply mission. We were a couple weeks, maybe just over a month into our mission. It was supposed to be a 3-day mission. It turned into a quite a lot longer mission than that. We went back to resupply, and we were running through a wadi, washed out riverbed. And there was a possible there, and so we hit it when we went over it.
What was the extent of your injury?
So some back injuries, things like that. Some loss of consciousness, things like that.
You say it kind of casual.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, most of the time you don't give that R-rated version.
Like many men and women returning from duty, Sergeant Drawn was faced with the question, what comes next?
Yeah, man, it's tough coming home. It's a really, really tough struggle. Much bigger than I ever intended, man. Stepping out from behind that uniform and figuring out what's next is a huge process. Mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually.
I am happy to report that Sergeant Drawn has transitioned to the civilian world, and he's now working with at-risk youth. Military camaraderie of another kind, this sense of community found back in hometowns all throughout the U.S. Amy Simpson has the story of the Blue Star Moms.
This group of women didn't sign up to serve their country, but their sons and daughters did.
You come together here and we listen to each other and we get it. And it's just that understanding that isn't often provided out in the real world.
This is just one of more than 200 chapters of the Blue Star Mothers of America. Here in Virginia's capital city, they call themselves the Blue Star Families of Richmond. Stephanie Sill says it's a sisterhood.
My oldest son, Joshua, is actually a veteran now of the Army. He served about 8 years.
Her son's deployment made her appreciate other moms who can relate.
He plays with bombs for a living, so pretty much every day was a stressful day for me.
The group gets together all year long, packing treats for troops, each December decorating a holiday tree at the Virginia War Memorial. Susan Holter is one of the newest members of the group.
I joined the group and immediately they sent a care package to my daughter.
Right now, her daughter is deployed in the Middle East.
Every day you say a prayer that she's going to be safe and everybody that she's serving with is going to be safe.
These moms say they're filled with emotions while supporting their sons and daughters, worry during deployments, but pride to have a child in uniform.
My kid went and joined the military. Well, I can do my part here in my hometown by taking care of those who also served.
For Veterans Voices, I'm Amy Simpson.
Some pretty amazing ladies. I know you've heard the phrase, age is nothing but a number. One veteran is proving this to be true. Ahead on CBS 17's Veterans Voices, the story of the dancing veteran and how he was able to keep his moves even through his years of service. A 92-year-old veteran says he has no plans on slowing down anytime soon. Every Thursday night, you can catch Angelo Rico cutting it up on the dance floors around Richmond, Virginia. His story is brought to us by Carrie O'Brien.
With every step, turn, and twirl, this 92-year-old dancing veteran is proving age is just a number.
It keeps me active, you know, my legs moving and so forth. Watch out, old Angelo, he's back. Watch out now.
Every Thursday evening, you can find Angelo Rico dancing in the deli at Pado's in Innsbruck.
I found the dream.
The Navy vet says he's always loved to dance.
That was my career in the Navy.
That was your career in the Navy?
Yeah, I used to dance a lot when I was ashore.
But it wasn't all fun and dance. He served during World War II.
I was at Iwo Jima 4 days delivering supplies to the poor fellas that landed on Iwo.
He joined the Navy when he was just 17.
I got into the Navy because I had a fight in high school. So this guy puts a pencil in my face, which I didn't care for. So I slapped the pencil and went flying across the room, and we started to fight. So I wound up in the dean's office getting bawled out. I said, well, I quit. I said, I'm joining the Navy.
It was after his time in the Navy that the New Yorker moved to Richmond, Virginia, where he's found friendship and community, particularly at Pado's weekly live music nights.
Angelo is my padrino, which is the godfather. We kind of met at the Italian club, and we adopted each other.
He's my, as they say in Italian, paisan. Freddie will do anything for me, and I'll do anything for Freddie, you know?
That's why the lady's a tramp. Freddie C., a veteran himself who served in the Air Force in Vietnam, plays at Pado's twice a month.
This is a veteran outfit, and he...
Thank you so much for your service.
There's a lot of veterans, but Angelo's kind of special.
And most of the time, the ladies come ask him to dance.
Angelo is a Casanova, vagabundo. He is like Fred Astaire, and the girls love him. All girls love men who can dance. If you can dance, you always have a girlfriend.
I'm hearing the ladies love your dancing. Are you a ladies' man?
No, I don't project myself as a ladies' man. I like to dance, and they're very hospitable that way.
So, of course, I had to ask if I could have the next dance. Would you dance with me? He certainly twirled me off my feet, and let me tell you, this 92-year-old is showing no signs of slowing down. For Veterans Voices, I'm Carrie O'Brien.
One of the last living Buffalo soldiers shares his time in the military. Ahead on Veterans Voices, hear how the retired corporal first heard about Pearl Harbor and the steps being taken to make sure no one ever forgets his role in World War II. Sergeant Tarsha Burrows told me she didn't even have time to react when her unit came under fire 15 years ago while she was serving in Iraq. While still dealing with the injuries that earned her a Purple Heart, Sergeant Burrows is making sure female Purple Heart recipients are not overlooked.
I have a sustainable back injury. I still have pieces of shrapnel throughout my body. I have hearing loss in my left ear. I have a case of TBI, so traumatic brain injury.
Sergeant Burrows doesn't shy away from sharing her story.
I'm glad to still be here. I'm glad to still be alive and tell about it and talk about it.
And she wants to make sure people realize the contributions and the sacrifices by other female members of the armed forces.
Being a female veteran, and then a female combat wounded veteran, I find myself a lot of times in the room and I'm the only one. So just bringing awareness that the age of the military has shifted drastically since its beginning. There are tons of females doing all sorts of jobs now in the military, not just the standard ones we were allowed to do in the past. Now we have fought so that we could have an active voice and have those active roles in all branches of the armed forces.
And Sergeant Burrows now plays a very active role in our community outside of uniform. She works in human resources for Wake County Schools. It's a chance to talk to someone who is literally living history, perhaps the last living Buffalo soldier. His name is Steve Lewis, and at 97 years old, he remembers very specific details of his time in the military and his time in college, and exactly where he was the day the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. Rod Carter has his story.
Retired Army Corporal Steve Lewis is living history.
I was in 12th grade when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor.
The 97-year-old Manatee County veteran vividly remembers the day that changed America forever.
It was on Sunday, and so it says Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, and we didn't have do nothing time, we didn't have no TVs, we had a radio.
Although after Pearl Harbor, Lewis enrolled at Florida A&M College in Tallahassee, now FAMU, a country at war meant studies took a back seat.
Every man in college had to be in the enlisted reserve corps.
Eventually, he was assigned to the 9th Cavalry, one of two black cavalries known as the Buffalo Soldiers. The all-African-American groups started during the Civil War. Their service, though, lasted until 1948, when President Harry S. Truman integrated the military. And by the early 1950s, they were gone.
And we didn't know a thing about no Buffalo Soldiers in the Army.
Okay.
We never heard it.
Mr. Lewis may be the last living Buffalo soldier around. He remembers his duties well.
Each man was assigned a horse, and you had to take the horse. You ready to go out, you ride the horse, bring him in, wash him down, clean him up, feed him, then you go eat.
Ralph Barnett is putting together a documentary about the Buffalo Soldiers.
In spite of the huge swath of American history that they cover and their importance in American history, the story has never really been told.
Mr. Lewis is going to be a big part of that film.
They don't give it the publicity it needs.
For Veterans Voices, I'm Rod Carter.
And because Mr. Lewis was college educated at the time, he was also assigned to be a morning reports keeper in the Army. And after his service in the military, he worked for many decades in the Manatee County School District, teaching, among other things, agriculture, science, and he also taught reading. At 97 years young, he is still very active in his fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi, and he also attends every meeting. And the building where they meet is even named after him. Coming up next, we talk to another Purple Heart veteran who served side by side with a canine. How he is now working side by side with other veterans who have mental health issues. Staff Sergeant Matthew Ferris spent 12 years in the Army, and while he is very private when it comes to how he earned his Purple Heart, he is very generous when fighting what is an all too common problem: veteran suicide.
I was a dog handler, so we were on patrol. It was a bomb dog. Our job was to find IEDs, and we just had a bad day. That's about all I care to go and do.
Yeah, that was perfectly fine. Can I ask the injury that you received?
At the time I was more concerned about my dog. He ran over and licked my face, and then I got checked out by the doc, and again, we kind of went from there.
Sergeant Ferris came home, so did his canine partner, and he's now dedicated to saving the lives of other members of the military grappling with mental health issues.
I'm actually part of a group right now called the Warrior Clan. They're out of Waynesville, North Carolina, and they are working towards combating veteran suicide. So it's a big crisis intervention type thing right now, and so they'll go out, they'll get a phone call and they'll go out if there's a veteran that's talking about suicide, and they'll immediately work with them, talk to them, and try to get them the care and help he needs.
I asked Sergeant Ferris why he gravitated toward this particular career field. He just looked me straight in the eyes and said, so he could work with veterans and, quote, give back to my community. If you are interested in Sergeant Farah's story or any of the other ones that we've shared, visit the Veteran Voices section of our website, cbs17.com. This has been a very special project, a very personal project for me. I was very blessed to be able to interview these men and women who have given so much to our country. On behalf of CBS 17, thank you to all the veterans who are watching and all the families who gave up so much for our country as well. We certainly hope you have enjoyed hearing these veteran voices. Have a wonderful day.